Alright guys, good morning or good afternoon whenever you are starting your e-learning for the day. Today we're going to be taking a look at our historical fiction book club books and how the minor characters are impacting the major characters. Put a little reminder here about what we're doing. You're also going to do a reading passage about force. This ties in with what we've been working on with our PLTW and our cars. And so let's get started. If you remember, before we started e-learning, we read a book in class called Freedom Summer. I'm just going to recap it real quick for you. Remember, John Henry and Joe are the two main characters. They're growing up in a time period when the South was still practicing segregation. The boys want to go swimming, and they swim in the creek, and then they find out that the pool is going to be open for everyone, no matter what color your skin is. And the boys go there, but it turns out they're filling in the pool with cement. And then it ends with John Henry and Joe going back to Mr. Mason's, and John Henry goes inside the store for the first time ever and buys his own ice pop. So we're going to take a look at how the other characters in the book impact John Henry and Joe throughout the story. So, major character we have, we're going to talk about John Henry and Joe. I'm going to start with John Henry. And the minor character I want to visit first with John Henry is Mr. Mason at the beginning of the story. Okay? And how does Mr. Mason affect John Henry? Well, Mr. Mason is the shop owner. And at the beginning of the story, John Henry is not welcome in the shop. So that definitely is impacting John Henry. It's making him feel different as he has to stand outside the shop. So, Mr. Mason doesn't allow John Henry in the store because of the color of his skin. Definitely impacts John Henry, makes him feel isolated, makes him feel different than Joe, even though they're the same age. And then we can also take a look at Mr. Mason and how he treats Joe. Just fixing my font here, bear with me. So Joe, and again I'm going to use Mr. Mason. And when Joe first walks into the store at the beginning of the book, Mr. Mason greets Joe, asks how he is, gives him a wink, has a joke. So Mr. Mason definitely treats Joe different than John Henry. In the book it even says, when Mr. Mason asks him if he's going to eat those all by himself, referring to the ice pops, Joe even says his heart does a quick beat, almost like he's afraid or scared that Mr. Mason's going to find out who Joe's friend is. So, Mr. Mason, oh, that's a little small, let me fix that. Mr. Mason treats Joe different than John Henry, causing Joe to feel anxious about his friendship with John. So even though Mr. Mason is being kind to Joe, the fact that he's kind to Joe and talks to Joe and winks at Joe causes some anxiety for Joe because he knows that Mr. Mason doesn't do that with John Henry. All right, let's take a look at another character. I'm actually going to pick the dad and how he impacts both John Henry and Joe. Because in the story, the dad is the one who breaks the news to the boys, well, actually to Joe, about the pool and how they're going to open it to everybody tomorrow, not just one particular race. So, the dad. And his comment about the pool opening, how does it impact the boys? Well, his comment about the pool being open for all causes the boys to get excited. They make a plan to go to the pool first thing in the morning. Now all of a sudden they're excited. And then we know that when they get there, we meet another character, and that's Will Rogers. And that's John Henry's big brother. And let's see. So he's going to impact both John Henry and Joe. His name is Will Rogers. Oh, sorry, typo. Let's fix that. And he's the one who, when the boys show up at the pool, he's the one that points down the road and doesn't say anything, but tells the boys what they don't want to hear, that they need to go home because they're filling in the pool. So Will Rogers, how does he impact them? He's the character, the minor character in the book, who breaks the news about the pool to the boys. Be more specific about the pool closing to the boys. And these are just a few examples from our book that we read together about how certain things a minor character says or things they do, how it can really impact your major characters. So what I want you to do today is you have a document similar to this table that I filled out. If you're reading I Survived, I want you to pay attention to how other characters are affecting Thomas and Bertie. And if you're reading Bud Not Buddy, think about even back at the beginning of the book, how Bud goes to a new home and how does the boy there and the parents, how is that impacting Bud? So you have lots of different characters in your books that you can think about. The Watsons go to Birmingham. How are the characters they meet along the way impacting them? Think about Mississippi Bridge. You have your one main character, but he goes to the store at the beginning of the book, and he meets all sorts of people along the way, and how is that impacting him? So your focus for today is think about your main characters, and I know some of you have a couple, some of you have one, and I want you to pay attention to how they interact with minor characters. Does the minor character say or do something to affect that main character? So that's what you're going to do with your book club book. Then you're going to also turn these notes into me so that I know that you watched my video. You're going to read the force passage and answer some questions. You're going to submit that to me as well. And then you are going to continue to read your book club book. Now, please remember that book club books have to be done by March 27th. Your skill for that day is going to be, we're going to talk about writing a summary of a book. If you have finished your book club book, I would encourage you also, though, to find a book to read over these next 2 weeks. I'm not going to make you answer questions, but it would be good for you to make sure that even though we're not at school, you're still doing some of that reading. Again, I'll be available if you need to email me. You can Canvas message me. You can Seesaw message me if you have any questions, and I will be sure to answer them quickly as I can. But please be sure that you're doing your e-learning. I miss you guys, and I'll be in touch with another video tomorrow. Have a good one.